I would like to take some moments to just bring the attention to something which is so very important for our time. Because very few are realizing that we don't exist separate from the whole, we exist as part of a deeply interwoven reality. What it means is incredibly valuable to consider and to imbibe into one's way of living. It is not so easy to almost conceive that we have an important role in the manifestation of life. It is, if you tell a raindrop, oh, you know that you are going to become the river and you are going to be in the ocean. The raindrops, what, me, so tiny, what can I do? But you know that it's many drops which form a river, and it is the river which is flowing to the ocean and merging and becoming one with the ocean. In the period where we are in this world, we are participating, whether we like it or not, directly and indirectly. Often not so consciously, but we are interacting. We are affecting the life, we are affecting the surroundings. So when one becomes more careful, then you start seeing it more in your own life. You can start with observing it in simple things, how you manifest your life energy can become have an impact in your surrounding life process. That is why in some deeper teachings, something is indicated like karma, something is indicated like that what you sow, you reap, because it's always a certain interactive process, and what we are manifesting is growing. And that is where you can start seeing it more carefully. For example, if you are carrying uncleared things, if there is feelings and energy processes which are working in you, which prevents you from being open to look and understand anybody else, then you are not able to communicate to the others clearly. Often maybe you have all the reasons to be closed and unhappy and being in the defense, but yet you have to look beyond the reasons and look deeper into what is the nature of our reality. What is possible for me, even when there are difficulties on the body level, even if there are emotional factors working, but still we don't need to get trapped in a negative state. We don't need to be bound by uncleared things in such a way that we become blind to the reality. In the normal way of going, that's what's happening. We are not connecting to the reality. We are staying with our projections. We are preoccupied with what is working in us, not so consciously mostly. And on the basis of that, what is coming up automatically and unconsciously in us, we judge, we react, we make conclusions. So we can contribute towards a surrounding by clearing our life energy from getting trapped in negative processes. And this is a subtle but very decisive factor for human beings. Because what life brings, as I often mention it, is not in our hand. But what we make out of it is our part. And the more you understand this interplay of energy processes in life, the more you will realize that, wow, when I take care of what way I manifest the energy, it's already making a big difference in my own life quality, my own life feeling, my own understanding of life. So it is very significant that you start recognizing that whether we like it or not, whether we want it or not, the fact is that we are interacting in life and we have a chance to support the life process to move in a direction which is creative, which is loving, which is beautiful. Because if we don't deliberately orient to clearing the energy, unconsciously and automatically, it gets pulled into certain negative reaction processes. And this we have been mentioning on various occasions, but it needs to be remembered and understood so that you recognize there is a responsibility for each of us, whether we want it or not, whether we like it or not. Very often we don't want to have all these kind of responsibilities. We want to just say, oh, I want to be free. I want to do what I want. But this kind of freedom and doing what we want, when we consider it carefully, we are not free. We are conditioned. We are trapped in program which is having certain values, certain concepts, which is connected with pride and prejudices, which is connected with certain ambitions which you have been collecting. And why is it not freedom? Because you have not consciously and intelligently picked up all these things. It is just a helpless child looking for something to survive, catching at anything which somehow looks like maybe it can be valuable for the survival. So our idea of ourselves, our reaction process, and also all the traps we fall into, including anger, hate, power games, all this, when you look more carefully, you will see it's not coming from your clarity and intelligence. It is coming from a fixed idea of yourself, which you have imbibed through the conditioning, which you have collected from here and there, often without being in a position to consider it more deeply. So this individual responsibility I would like to bring the attention, because when more and more individual human beings take this basic factors into consideration, then it is like small developments, or to put it in a more clear way, small flames of light shining in an area of darkness. But it becomes an encouragement, an inspiration, a support for everybody else too, who are also feeling trapped in the darkness and often don't know how to deal with it, how to come out of it. We are in a world where people are looking in many ways to become clear, to become free, to be fulfilled. But there are so many fixed concepts and beliefs which are part of the conditioning, and we are following that without questioning. That is why very often there are frustrations, disappointments, which leads to helplessness, hopelessness, resignation, depression. But again, one is used to a way of going where one is fighting with whatever is the case. So if you feel unhappy, you try to fight with unhappiness and try to be happy. That's what many medications, drugs, legal, illegal, what people are doing often is, rather than trying to understand what is behind my unhappiness, what is the way of the nature, what is my path, what is my reality, without questioning all these things, the tendency is just to go on repeating a certain program of struggling, fighting, forcing, pretending, and being so preoccupied with the periphery, the image, and thus caught in pride and prejudice, and inwardly feeling very insecure, very helpless. So it is very important that we don't judge the others. When I speak about these things, I am not trying to put anybody down or to criticize. I am simply saying these are the factors which we need to deal with. Everybody is in very unique challenges. So when you start confronting and clearing things in your life and your life energy becomes free, you become an illuminating factor in the huge dark surroundings. But when more and more people come together and start authentically, consciously living the goodness, living the love, living the compassion, living the joy, living the celebration, recognizing the wonder, and see that nothing can be taken for granted, that everything is miraculous and everything is a present. So the more you deepen your understanding, the more amazing life becomes for you, the more blessed you feel you are. That is why it is an individual responsibility to question, to confront the roots of misunderstanding and unhappiness in oneself and learn to clear the energy. And when your awareness of it becomes deep, that my judgment is based on my conditioned way of looking at things, but I have no basis to judge anybody because everybody is in unique situations. Everybody has unique background. And if you look more carefully, you will see that life has created each of us as unique manifestations. There's nobody like you. What a wonder. It's a great respect, and it is also, in a way, indicating that you are unique, you are wanted here, you are respected, you are supported. You may be caught up in some kind of judgment where you put yourself down, where you feel guilty, where you condemn, or where you are too much into the pride and struggle. The fact is, everybody is unique. Whether we like it or not, whether we want it or not, you can see that there is nobody like you anywhere to be seen in this whole earth. And recently somebody was mentioning that in the scientific report, they were also observing this aspect that even small insects and small manifestation of life, they are also unique. There is no two living beings which are exactly the same. We are in the middle of wonder, but it's not enough when we just deal with it on a philosophical level. You have to learn to look at the reality without getting trapped in knowledge, without getting trapped in judgment, without getting trapped in the approach of comparison and competition, without getting trapped in images, without being bound to the idea that what others say, what others think about you is the main thing. Instead, start facing yourself sympathetically, wakefully, being a friend, so that you are not judging and putting yourself in a box, but you start seeing the deeper interconnected factors, what is there. And it is this understanding in a deeper sense, it is this awakening to the nature of the reality which removes all the suffering in human life. Because when you see, on one side, as you go deeper, one thing will become clear, that the body is born, the body dies, but you are not just this body alone. You are like one who is living inside in this body. You are the one who is breathing in and breathing out into this body. You have the mind, but you can also observe the mind. So you see that that is not your essential reality. So as you go deeper, as you become aware of the relative nature of the reality, you get more and more familiar with the nature of your beingness. You start getting familiar with that what is not part of the change. All what is in the dualistic level, all what is on the material level, all that what we can put in terms of logical, rational concepts, they are all part of change. But that what we essentially am is not a concept. It is what you can realize. It is what you experience when your mind is quiet, when you become inwardly silent, when you are not trying to achieve anything, but you stay awake. You are simply a wakeful observer, a deep, intense presence. With this quality of presence, when you bring attention to that what you are, that what is in you, you start seeing a different basis of the reality. A reality where you see the blessing of life, the wonder of life, the gratitude arises, the celebration arises, and the amazement is immense. But I'm not trying to say these things to make it in such a way that you can make a new goal of this. No, don't make a new goal. That is why Buddha has been very careful. When he started speaking about the deeper process, he was almost so miserly in his language, because people can make from everything a new goal and approach the same deeper inquiry as if it is now the new ambition to achieve. No. Be with a readiness to look, be with a readiness to understand, be with a readiness to wakefully observe, be like a mirror. That is why the inner process is an adventurous journey of awakening to the authentic one who is within. When it is said that take time for silence, take time to meditate, take time to allow a space for beingness, where you are without being anybody in particular, it is simply a support. Because when you can allow this attunement to the reality, it is like a certain way of renewing your understanding of who you are. And then with this understanding and the consciousness, when you are going about in the day-to-day life process, this will continue as a inner remembrance. So that even though I am playing a role of being somebody, yet I am part of this undivided, interconnected, mysterious, wondrous reality. And this is what gives the life the real significance, because it's not just a belief, it's not something which you are following, it is not that it's some new philosophy to engage yourself with, it is your existential, experiential basis of life. So, we are in a period in the world where it becomes very significant that more and more people who have any capacity to understand and can pursue their inquiry goes deeper and allow this understanding to become real for them. That it is not just a hypothetical belief, it is not some argument to change anybody or to convince anybody, but it becomes your direct understanding, your direct insight, your experiential basis. So move in this direction, and that way you become a blessing to yourself and blessing to everyone else. Because when someone is inwardly clear, spontaneously, naturally, a quality of compassion and love manifests through this being. That is why, if you want to look, if your inquiry into life is going in the right direction, you can get a clue when you see, am I becoming more compassionate towards others? Am I becoming more patient to look and consider things rather than judging and coming into quick conclusions to put oneself and the other in boxes? When you are remembering this, you see there is a certain quality of gentleness, a quality of gracefulness coming into your life. You don't try to be superior to anybody or inferior to anybody. You are not going into this competition with anybody. You see that everybody has unique challenges. Everybody is in unique adventure. And we can support each other. Because this one point I want to make really visible to everybody as carefully as possible. Even though the nature of the reality is like a dream, within this, the illusion, within this dream, when we are in pain, when we are suffering, there is suffering, there is pain. You really suffer. So we need to take the situation of oneself and each other more deeply, try to understand and consider more sympathetically, because just like pleasure is a sensation of that dimension, pain also is a similar experiential process. And both exist together. So it is very important that we take the situation of the other very carefully. When somebody is in pain, when somebody is in anguish, somebody is trapped in fear, they are caught in that. They need to be very sympathetically considered. And you are able to consider the other sympathetically only when you are not trapped in your own uncleared things. Otherwise you have no space, your energy is blocked. So understand how delicate everything is. You can, through your clarity, bring a little more light, a little quality of sympathy, friendship, compassion, love in your surroundings, and make it a little bit more easy and beautiful for everyone to come closer to themselves and to realize that this life is a blessing. This life is not a curse, it is not a horror story. It is a tremendously, deeply, deeply significant blessing. But we need to understand it. We need to experientially come to recognize it. So when you have the understanding, when it is true to you, and when you share that with somebody, you are not trying to convince anybody, you are not trying to change anybody. You are coming from your heart, you are coming from your insight. That is why the priorities that you bring the attention to that what is in you. Get clear, free your life energy from getting entangled in all shadow states by your understanding, by your initiative, by your insight. And allow your energy to manifest as compassion, as love, as an orientation to goodness. And one last thing I want to mention in this context is everybody needs to be considered sympathetically, compassionately, carefully. Because everybody is going through unique challenges. Even if somebody is in such horrible state, somebody may be in the most unsensible way of going in life. But still, rather than fighting and putting these people in just a box and being hateful or revengeful towards them, a person of understanding will consider everyone, without exception, compassionately, carefully, gracefully. Because we all arise from the same source. And when it becomes your understanding, when it becomes your experience, then you see that what else? How else can you connect to anyone who is trapped in some one-sided way of looking and misunderstandings? The only way to connect is through compassion. Only way to connect is through sympathetic and careful consideration, and not just forcing them and putting them into some kind of box and inflicting more pain and suffering. That is not an answer. That is a blind reaction where we are entangling into more blindness. So the path towards bringing more light into the world goes through facing ourselves, understanding ourselves more deeply. And from that manifests the best what you are, the beautiful that you are, the divine that you are. Because that is your innermost reality when you experience directly and deeply. When you look at yourself without getting trapped in the usual way of judging and labeling. This is the meaning of being in a non-interfering way of looking, wakefully being present. So bring this understanding in your life so that you can live from this clarity and respond intelligently, lovingly to the surroundings and to the developments in the world, because the world needs your support. You are not separate from the whole. You are one with the whole. And we have, when you understand rightly, a certain responsibility. And it's a great blessing when you understand it rightly, because you will not see it as a burden. It's not a duty. It's much more recognizing that there is something very beautiful, something very deep, which is so sacred, so precious, so beautiful, which we need to take care. And when you understand it, it becomes your reality. It becomes your orientation.